How do you build an architectural masterpiece from the top down? I mean, just imagine it for a second. You don't pour a foundation, you don't stack bricks. Instead, you find a massive, solid expanse of stone and you literally start digging. You carve downwards, shaping the roof before you ever even reach the floor. It sounds like an impossible engineering mystery, right? Almost like a complete historical disruption. But over 8 centuries ago, that is exactly what King Lalibela did in Ethiopia. Welcome to The Explainer. I am so excited you're here today because we're going to unpack how this ancient architectural marvel actually holds the blueprint for modern innovation. You know, when people think of Ethiopia, many instantly picture its ancient history, its rich culture, and those remarkable landmarks. But as highlighted by Muna Sultan in her insights on our history, the story actually goes way deeper. Structures like the rock-hewn churches of Lalibela prove the unlimited vision, the extraordinary engineering, and the immense determination of human beings. And they remind us of this really profound historical truth. Innovation and collective team efforts, they aren't new to our country. Great works have always been built, not through isolated individual efforts, but through the incredible synergy of multiple minds and hands. It's this continuous timeline of collaboration that gives us the pride and confidence to stand strong today and look forward to the future, truly understanding the power of collaboration.
So here's our agenda for today's journey. First, we'll explore the marvel of Lalibela. Second, a culture of collaboration. Third, valuing indigenous knowledge. Fourth, engineering the modern skyline. And finally, Ethiopia's innovation ecosystem.
Let's jump right into Section 1, the marvel of Lalibela.
All right, let's dive into this. According to historical texts and oral traditions, King Lalibela, whose name literally means honey eater, by the way, was guided to build a second Jerusalem right in Africa, and the way he pulled it off is what experts call the absolute climax of rock excavation. Over 800 years ago, he carved 11 churches directly out of the bedrock. They're hidden, they're underground, and they're full of shadow and just incredible mystery. Take the Beta Georgis Church, for instance. It's shaped like a cross, not just on the roof, but throughout the entire interior space. The topmost windows are open, while the lower ones are closed, brilliantly symbolizing the windows on the ship of Noah. Now, what's truly amazing is that Lalibela isn't some dead monument or a quiet museum. It is a vibrant, living heritage. The sheer density of the crowds during celebrations is incredible. During Christmas, today, over 900 religious ministers fill these sunken courtyards, dressed in remarkably symbolic and colorful robes. Pilgrims gather overnight, lighting traditional beeswax candles called twaf that illuminate the ancient stone. The chanting, the burning of incense, it continues entirely unchanged to this very day.
Moving on to Section 2, a culture of collaboration.
So it begs the question, how was such monumental engineering actually achieved? I mean, it wasn't magic, it was cultural synergy. Ethiopians have a really long history of cooperative-like institutions. Let's look at a few of them, starting with Ikub. Essentially, this is a traditional financial association. Community members pool their resources, primarily money, and then distribute it to members on a rotating basis. It's a highly structured, ancient form of financial teamwork that allowed communities to mobilize capital long before modern banks ever existed. Next up, we have Idir. You can think of this as a deep-seated cultural safety net. It's basically an association focused on social and economic insurance. If a community member goes through a hard time, say a death in the family, an accident, or property damage, the Idir steps right in. Members elect their own leaders, they contribute resources in cash or in kind, and they genuinely support each other. It is literally the very definition of community resilience. And finally, we have Jigi and Wanfel. These are traditional initiatives for mobilizing massive amounts of labor, specifically to overcome seasonal agricultural peaks. When the harvest needed to be brought in, you didn't just work alone, the whole community pitched in. I kind of want you to think of these as Ethiopia's original innovation hubs. It's this exact same cultural framework of shared labor and shared goals that allowed multiple hands to literally carve mountains into churches. That brings us to Section 3, valuing indigenous knowledge. Academically, we call these collaborative practices indigenous knowledge. This encompasses all the technologies, the know-how, the skills, and the beliefs that an indigenous community accumulates over generations just to achieve a stable livelihood in their specific environment. Way before the development of modern science, these community-built practices were the bedrock of survival, agriculture, architecture, and progress. It is society-built knowledge at its absolute finest. And comparing the two brilliantly illustrates both the contrast and the necessary connection between these systems. Western science is often formalized, it's documented, and it's driven by modern academic approaches. Indigenous knowledge, on the other hand, is holistic, often transferred through oral tradition, and it's intensely community-centered over thousands of years. But here is the critical takeaway. The research shows us that sustainable development doesn't mean replacing indigenous knowledge with Western science. It means integrating them. When modern development projects ignore the local context, they almost always fail. True innovation requires respecting both.
Let's pivot to Section 4, Engineering the Modern Skyline.
Architecture in Ethiopia tells this amazing story that spans millennia. You start with the ancient obelisks of Axum, pure engineering brilliance. Then the rock-hewn churches of Lalibela, 800 years ago. Jump forward to the late 19th century, and Emperor Menelik II introduces a massive wave of urban modernization to Addis Ababa. Fast forward again to 2004, and you have the condominium housing program, which was this huge initiative that delivered over 250,000 low-cost housing units using precast concrete. The medium changes from stone to concrete, sure, but the scale and the ambition, those remain exactly the same.
Today's architects and engineering firms are actively taking that baton. You have visionary figures like Raho Shal, renowned for her socially responsible design. She's taking traditional Ethiopian forms and blending them with modern sustainability and local craftsmanship. Then you have experts like Abel Bedesta, ensuring that rigorous structural standards can actually meet the massive scale of a rapidly urbanizing Addis Ababa. And developers like Temer Properties are out there fusing visionary design with strict Ethiopian building code standards, ensuring that everything from deep foundations to efficient energy planning honors the past while totally securing the future.
46. That is the sheer vertical leap and the number of floors in the modern Commercial Bank of Ethiopia headquarters. Standing a whopping 209 meters tall, this tower, along with others like the Zemen Bank HQ, reflects Ethiopia's massive leap into highly complex, seismic-resistant high-rise engineering. We've literally gone from carving deep into the earth to building high into the clouds. And guess what? Both rely on coordinated, massive-scale teamwork.
Which brings us to our final section, Section 5, Ethiopia's Innovation Ecosystem. Okay, let's break down this academic model really quickly. For a long time, innovation was viewed through what's called a triple helix model: government, university, and industry working together. But researchers at Addis Ababa University recently published findings pointing out a pretty massive blind spot. So they introduced the quadruple helix model. The absolutely crucial addition here, the indigenous community. By adding this fourth pillar, universities and industries gain access to deeply contextualized, sustainable local knowledge. Without the community, the whole linkage just breaks.
Mapping this out on a national scale, we can look at an ecosystem diagram developed by Aalto University. At the very top, in the macrosphere, or strata I, you have the government ministries, things like technology, education, and trade. Below that, in the mesosphere, you have your startup ecosystem. These are the incubators, the business hubs, and the tech labs that are driving modern business. But let's think about the base level, strata 3, the pesosphere. This bottom sphere is the indigenous innovation system. It encompasses the traditional, ecological, organic, and craft-based producers. We're talking about the potters, the weavers, the grassroots innovators. Historically, their linkage to the top two layers hasn't been strong enough, but researchers clearly note that this neglected base holds incredible potential. By integrating this indigenous innovation into formal university and industry frameworks, there is a massive opportunity to tackle unemployment, eliminate poverty, and actually achieve the UN Sustainable Development Goals. The answers to our future are quite literally woven right into our past. Which leaves us with this final, really powerful question. If ancient Ethiopians could carve absolute masterpieces out of solid rock from the top down, relying purely on traditional synergy and community collaboration, what modern mountains could we move if we fully embraced and integrated our own indigenous knowledge into our industries today? It's something to think about. The foundation is already there. We just have to build on it together. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.